Usually, I will dressed up, baked my pie, and waited by the window like I did every year. But this Thanksgiving, nobody came. Hours later, I saw the photos. My family had a full dinner without me. They didn't forget me. They excluded me on purpose. So, I posted the truth. Before I begin my story, I just want to say thank you for listening to me pour my heart out. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is. I love hearing from you. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me more than you know. Now, let me tell you what really happened. I woke up early that Thanksgiving morning, same as always. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, and the cold had crept into the corners of my little house. I shuffled to the kitchen, wrapped in my shawl, and turned on the kettle. I'd already baked the sweet potato pie the night before. It was cooling on the counter beside the butter dish, just like every year. Jasmine always made the turkey, Malcolm the drinks, Talia handled the playlist and me while I brought the pie. That was my place. My quiet, reliable role in the Langley Thanksgiving table. Only this year, something felt off. I hadn't heard from Malcolm in 3 days. No, just checking in. Ma, no final details on when he'd swing by to pick me up. I wasn't too worried at first. My son was forgetful, but not cruel. I told myself he was just busy with preparations, running around trying to please Jasmine as usual. But still, a little voice in the back of my head started whispering things I didn't want to hear. I brushed it off and stayed busy. I dressed slowly, carefully, put on my maroon cardigan, the one Malcolm always said brought out the gold in my skin. I pinned a small brooch to my chest, combed out my curls, and gave myself a quiet nod in the mirror. You still got it, Ruth. Then I sat by the window. I waited and waited. I watched leaves swirl in the yard. Watched a neighbor's grandkids run down the sidewalk with foil pans and ribbon-wrapped boxes. Around 11:30, I reheated some coffee. By 1 o'clock, I poured it out. My phone sat on the side table face up. No messages, no missed calls, not even a text that said running late. By 3 o'clock, the pie had cooled to room temperature and my fingers had stopped refreshing the call log. I called Malcolm once. It rang twice, then went straight to voicemail. I didn't leave one. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table and did what I'd spent a lifetime learning to do. I made peace with the quiet. I fixed myself a small plate, some leftover greens, a slice of ham, and a scoop of macaroni from the night before. I lit a candle out of habit, and placed it on the table beside the pie. I whispered grace under my breath and tried not to taste the bitterness behind the salt. By 5 p.m., I'd given up pretending. I opened my phone and scrolled through Facebook. That was my first mistake. The first photo I saw was Jasmine smiling wide with her arm wrapped around Malcolm standing in front of a perfectly golden turkey on her polished dining table. The caption read, "So thankful for this beautiful life and our beautiful people. #grateful #family first." There were dozens of likes already. The comments rolled in fast. Such a gorgeous table. Where's Mama Langley? Miss Ruth didn't make the pie this year. I blinked at the screen. My hands trembled as I clicked through the photos. There was Talia holding a glass of cider, laughing with cousins I hadn't seen since Easter. There was Malcolm pouring wine. There was Jasmine holding the pie plate I'd given her last Christmas filled with someone else's dessert. But no one mentioned me. Not once. Not a single chair at that long table was empty. They hadn't just forgotten me. They'd planned a meal where I didn't belong. My chest felt tight. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth. I stared at the photo trying to find a mistake. A sign that maybe I'd been invited and somehow missed it. But there was clear, cruel, and smiling right back at me. A Thanksgiving I wasn't part of lived out in high definition. My thumb hovered over the like button. I didn't press it. Instead, I set the phone down gently, stood up, and walked to the window. I looked out at the street again. It was dark now. The porch lights on every house glowed soft yellow, and I could hear faint laughter from 2 doors down. I felt like a ghost in my own life, floating in a room no one remembered, breathing in a space no one made for me. I wrapped up the pie in foil and slid it into the fridge. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat down again, alone. The candle flickered low beside me. My hand reached for my phone again, not to scroll, not to call, but to reread the last message I'd sent Malcolm the week before. Let me know what time you'll be coming by to pick me up. I've got the pie ready. It had been left unread. That's when the tears came. Not loud, not violent, just soft and steady. They rolled down my cheeks as I folded my napkin and placed it on my empty plate. It was the first time I'd ever eaten Thanksgiving dinner alone, and I knew it would be the last time I stayed quiet about it. I woke up the next morning, still in my cardigan. I must have fallen asleep in the armchair, phone still resting in my lap. The candle had burned down to a stub. The room smelled faintly of sweet potato and cold disappointment, and my back acted in that sharp, familiar way it always did after sitting too long without support. I reached for my phone, not because I expected a message, but because habit is hard to break after 76 years. Still no calls, no texts, nothing from Malcolm, nothing from Talia. Not even one of those too light-hearted emojis Jasmine likes to send when she's avoiding responsibility. The kind that says, "Oops, we forgot." Like it's a joke instead of a knife in your side. I opened Facebook again. Their post had picked up even more likes overnight. Over 100 now, dozens of comments. Jasmine had even replied to a few, thanking people for their compliments on this spread. I stared at her smile in those photos. It wasn't just joy, it was triumph, like she finally had her perfect holiday polished and curated without the woman she called extra weight dragging it down. That's when I noticed something strange. Talia had tagged me. It must have been accidental. Some careless click while uploading a photo, but there it was, a blue hyperlink under the family photo with Ruth Langley. I clicked it half hoping it was something else, some different post or maybe even a message. Instead, it opened a thread, a long one. It wasn't public. It was part of a private family group Jasmine had created. I'd never been added before. Apparently, Talia's tag had triggered something that gave me temporary access. And in that moment, whether by grace, accident, or divine timing, I saw everything. The thread started 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Jasmine, are we seriously inviting Ruth again this year? I'm not dealing with her moping over the table. She brings the mood down and it takes forever for her to get out of the car. Malcolm, she's my mom, Jasmine, and I'm your wife. Pick a struggle, Talia. No reply. Another message from Jasmine. Let's just keep it between us this year. She won't make a fuss. Tell her dinner's canned or something. She'll stay home and do her little prayer thing. Post a pic of the pie if she asks. Malcolm replied with a thumbs up emoji. That was the one that hurt the most. Not the insults. Not even the exclusion. It was that little yellow icon. Lazy, silent, and complicit. There were more messages. Jokes about me falling asleep at the table last year, complaints about my stories. Jasmine wrote that she can't stand the smell of Vicks and dusty perfume. Malcolm laughed. Natalia, she didn't say a word. No defense, no protest, just liked to comment here and there and sent a gif of someone rolling their eyes when Jasmine said I was ruining the aesthetic. I sat in silence as I read. Each message was like a paper cut, shallow on its own, but together they bled. It wasn't just that they didn't invite me. It was that they didn't want me there. They'd planned a family holiday and intentionally cut out the woman who raised it all. The woman who paid for Malcolm's college when his father died. The woman who took out a loan to help Jasmine start her little bakery. The woman who walked Talia to the bus every day in elementary school when Jasmine was too busy. I looked around my living room. There were framed photos on every wall. Photos of their birthdays, their graduations, their baby showers and holidays, all with me in the background, smiling, cooking, holding someone's child, offering someone a glass. I wasn't the centerpiece. I was the support beam. And now they torn me out of the foundation like I was a weed. That night, I opened the small safe in my bedroom. Inside was a sealed envelope labeled Christmas. I had written it by hand 2 months earlier. Inside was a letter to Malcolm and Talia along with a notarized copy of my original will. Who was my surprise? My plan. After years of pinching pennies, saving birthday checks instead of cashing them, and quietly selling off jewelry I never wore, I had amassed more than they suspected. My house was paid off. My retirement accounts were healthy. I'd even invested in a few bonds my cousin's boy had recommended years ago. It wasn't generational wealth, but it was enough to change their lives. I'd planned to give them everything, to leave Malcolm the house, to set up a trust for Talia's education. Even Jasmine, God help me. I had written her into the document for a portion of the savings. I thought maybe it would soften her over time, make her feel included. But now I knew better. I placed the envelope on the table. I stared at it for a long time. Then I took a pair of scissors from the drawer and cut it down the middle. Right through the word Langley. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was clear. I picked up the phone and called Michelle Carter. She answered on the second ring. Miss Ruth, happy Thanksgiving. Wait, is everything all right? I need to rewrite my will, I said. There was a pause. Tonight. Okay, she said calmly. I'll come to you first thing in the morning. I sat back in my chair and stared at the pieces of the envelope scattered across the table. Felt good. Not because I was petty, because I was finally done pretending that loyalty should be unconditional. They could have had everything. Now they were going to see what it meant to have nothing. Michelle arrived the next morning exactly at 9 a.m. sharp. She always had a punctual soul, that one. Back when she was just a teenager, she used to volunteer at the community center on weekends while other kids were sleeping in. Now, here she was, a full-grown woman with a law degree, walking into my home with a briefcase and an expression I can only describe as fierce compassion. I brought coffee, she said, handing me a cup. Thought you might need it more than me. I smiled, even though I hadn't slept much. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I once taught Malcolm how to write cursive, where I bandaged his knee after he fell off his bike, where I took calls late into the night after his father passed away. The same table they had all forgotten. Michelle opened her case and pulled out a blank copy of my will. You're sure? She asked, her voice gentle. I looked her dead in the eye. I was going to change their lives. Now I'm going to protect someone else's. She nodded and didn't press further. We went over everything. Line by line, I struck through Malcolm's name. Removed Jasmine entirely. Talia. I hesitated on her name for a second, but she'd stayed silent when it mattered most. She lost her place, too. In their place, I named the Haven House Shelter, a local nonprofit that provided housing and education support to elderly women left behind by their families. I'd been quietly donating to them for years. Now, I was giving them everything. The house, the bonds, the savings, all of it. Michelle had brought the necessary witnesses. My neighbor Eloise and the young postal clerk from down the road. They signed where needed and left without asking questions. It was done in under an hour. My life's work legally reassigned. I felt lighter afterward. Not happy, not vindicated, just unburdened. Michelle reached for her coat. "What will you do now?" she asked. I looked down at my folded hands. "I think I'll tell the truth." That evening, I opened Facebook again. The post was still there. Jasmine smiling beside my son. Talia holding a glass up in a toast. The comments were still pouring in. Beautiful family goals. So much love in these photos. I stared at those words for a long time, the back of my throat tight. Beautiful love family. Words that had lost their meaning in my world. I clicked create post. I didn't type anything yet. Just stared at the blinking cursor. Then I picked up my phone and opened the screenshots I had saved. The group chat messages, the jokes, the lies, the decision to exclude me. I uploaded them one by one. Then I went to my photo gallery. I selected the photo I had taken of myself the night before. Me sitting alone at the table. One plate, a single flickering candle, the pie untouched behind me, my face quiet, not crying, not bitter, just still. I posted it all in the Langley family Facebook group, not my personal wall, the private group where Jasmine curated perfection, where they posted baby bump updates, Easter dress photos, and smiling group shots in matching flannel. I hit post. Then I wrote, "This was my Thanksgiving." I waited by the window. I baked the pie. I dressed up. No one came. I was going to surprise you all next month. I'd written a letter, prepared documents, made plans to pass along everything I worked for, the house, the savings, the future, but you made it clear. I'm not family anymore. I've updated the will. I won't be a burden in your photos, your dinners, or your legacy. But I will be remembered, just not by you. I didn't hit send right away. I read it over 3 times. Then I hit post. I set the phone down and went to the porch. The sky was pink-orange, the trees rustling with late fall wind. And for the first time in days, I let myself smile just a little. It didn't take long. 10 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. Notifications, dozens, then hundreds. Cousins commenting, "What is this?" Old friends messaging me, shocked, distant relatives asking why they hadn't heard from me in so long. The photo began circulating beyond the group. Someone had screenshotted it and posted it to their own page with the caption, "This is heartbreaking. Be better to your elders." By the end of the night, the post had been shared over 1,000 times. The comments were relentless. "I can't believe they did this to you. You deserve better. You're not alone. We see you." But the ones that hit hardest, they came from within the family. Aunt Bernice wrote, "Malcolm, is this true?" Cousin Lisa, "I was just talking to Ruth last week. She was so excited for Thanksgiving. I'm sick over this." And then there was one from Malcolm himself. "This wasn't how it looks. There's a lot going on. Please, can we talk privately?" I didn't reply because the truth wasn't private anymore. They posted their Thanksgiving. I posted mine and now the world could see the difference. The next morning, I woke up to a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. It was still early, not even 7 a.m., and the sun hadn't broken through the blinds yet, but my notifications had multiplied overnight. My fingers trembled slightly as I picked it up. I expected maybe a few more comments, maybe 1 or 2 friends checking in. I had no idea. The post had been shared nearly 3,000 times. I wasn't just viral within my family group anymore. It had spread. People I didn't know were reposting my picture, my story, my words. Some called me brave. Others called the family disgraceful. Women were writing from other states, other countries even saying, "You spoke for all of us." The hashtags had taken on a life of their own. Hashtag forgotten on Thanksgiving, hashtag elder shame, hashtag Amriath. And right in the middle of it all, my quiet little face at that lonely table, a single candle flickering beside a plate that hadn't been touched. That one image had done what 76 years of loyalty hadn't. Made people see me. By midday, the Langley family Facebook group was chaos. Dozens of new posts flooded in from extended cousins and distant relatives who had either seen the post firsthand or heard about it through the grapevine. Aunt Bernice posted a long blistering note. I'm ashamed. Ruth is my sister-in-law and one of the most dignified women I know. To exclude her like this on a day meant for gratitude is vile. I raised Malcolm better than this. Jasmine, I don't know you well, but I know what this says about you. Jasmine tried to reply. Of course, she did. She wrote something like, there's always two sides. We didn't mean for things to be hurtful. Thanksgiving was very hectic this year, and communication got lost in the shuffle. I almost laughed. Lost in the shuffle. That's what she called it. Like forgetting to pick up napkins or overcooking the stuffing. Not deliberately excluding the matriarch of the family while mocking her in a group chat, but she wasn't prepared for what came next. Talia commented, not just a like, not just a sorry, Grandma. No, she posted a full paragraph. I was wrong. I saw the messages. I didn't say anything. I thought staying quiet was better than making things worse. But silence is a choice, too, and I made the wrong one. I'm sorry, Grandma. I really truly am. I read it 3 times. It didn't undo anything, but it said more than Malcolm had. Speaking of Malcolm, he called twice. I let the first one go to voicemail, then the second. By the third, I finally picked up, not out of curiosity, but because I wanted to hear how far he'd fallen in the span of 48 hours. His voice was low tight. Ma, he said, what are you doing eating lunch? I replied. He sighed. You know what I mean? I didn't answer. Look, it got out of hand. The post. People are sharing it everywhere. I've got coworkers asking me what happened. Jasmine's crying. Talia won't even come out of her room. You've made your point, okay? My voice stayed steady. No, I said. My point wasn't just for you. It was for everyone who thinks people like me won't speak. People are turning on us. They should. He didn't respond. So, I gave him the one truth he hadn't heard yet. I was going to leave you everything, Malcolm. The house, the accounts, the savings. I had the letter ready sealed with your name on it. He stammered. Wait, what? I changed it. The night I ate alone. I called Michelle. Signed it all over to Haven House. Ma, come on. I raised my voice slightly, just enough to stop him. I was alone. Not because I forgot to reach out, but because my own child told his wife I ruined the aesthetic. You left me out like a stain on your carpet and now you want to clean it up with guilt. No sir, I'm not your shame sponge. He was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered, you really gave it all away? Yes. He hung up. No goodbye, just silence. And that silence, that was the sound of everything shifting. By the end of the week, I had 5 invitations from local news outlets asking for interviews. I declined them all. I didn't need cameras or microphones. I had already said what I needed to say. Instead, I went down to Haven House and handed them the first formal check from the new trust. The executive director, a woman named Carla, hugged me so tight I thought I might break. You don't know how many women this is going to help. She said. I smiled. I do, I told her. Later that evening, I posted one final message to the family group. To those who called, messaged, or simply said nothing, this will be my last post here. I won't be attending Christmas, nor will I respond to further questions. My legacy now lives somewhere else. You had your chance to build something with me. Instead, you built something around me, and now I've stepped out of it permanently. I logged out after that. I sat down with a warm cup of tea and looked out the window at the cold, gray sky. The candle I'd lit on Thanksgiving night was long gone, but I'd replaced it with a new one. Bright red, unlit, waiting. Not for them. For me. I thought they might let it go. After all the posts, the outrage, and the silence that followed my final message. I assumed they'd stay quiet, that Malcolm and Jasmine would retreat, lick their wounds in private, and let the embarrassment pass like a storm they didn't want to admit they caused. But they didn't. That following weekend, I heard a knock on the door. Not soft, not tentative, a hard, full-palmed fewing, like someone trying to shake an apology loose by force. I didn't move from the couch. Another knock. I peeked through the side window. It was Malcolm alone. No Jasmine, no Talia. He was holding something in his hand. Looked like a plastic grocery bag. My guess. Pie or leftover turkey. Some symbolic peace offering that had nothing to do with remorse and everything to do with image. I didn't answer. He knocked again, this time calling my name. Ma, please. I stared at the door like it was a wall. I just want to talk, so I didn't move. He tried once more. Ma, come on. This is getting ridiculous. I almost laughed. Ridiculous? That word? The same one Jasmine used when I once told her I didn't want Talia wearing heels at age 10. The same tone Malcolm used when I asked if they'd come over for Easter and he said, "We're not doing holidays like that anymore." Now, suddenly, my silence was the problem. He left after 10 minutes. No note, no voicemail, no groceries left behind, just a puff of exhaust as his car disappeared down the street. I sat in my chair and waited just to be sure he was really gone. Later that afternoon, Talia sent a message. It wasn't short this time. Started with, "Grandma, I know I don't deserve to be forgiven." I read the whole thing. She apologized for staying quiet, for laughing at the jokes, for not standing up when she should have. She said Jasmine and Malcolm were fighting, that the house was tense, that she'd cried every day since Thanksgiving. Then came the part that stuck. I miss you. I miss sitting in your kitchen. I miss your stories. I miss how you always made space for everyone. It was a lovely letter, but it came after silence, after betrayal, after all the wrong people felt the heat of being exposed. I didn't reply right away. Not because I didn't feel something, I did. But I'd spent too many years being the soft place for others to land, being the one who made space while no one made space for me. Now I was making room for myself. The next morning, Michelle dropped by. She handed me a folder with finalized documents for the Shaw Langley Fund. My signature notarized. My house officially donated as part of the trust. The shelter would take ownership the following spring with plans to expand their residential housing for senior women who'd been displaced by their families. You just built a future for women you'll never even meet, Michelle said as she closed the folder. I didn't smile. I just nodded. That night, I lit the red candle I'd saved. I didn't need a holiday. I didn't need a reason. I just wanted to sit in my own living room, sip warm chamomile, and feel what it was like to be in full control of my story. No whys, no performance, just me and the kind of quiet that finally felt earned. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Jasmine. A message. Not long. We should have done better. I'm sorry. I read it twice. The second time I noticed the lack of punctuation. No emotion in the delivery, just a flat sentence that said everything and nothing at once. I didn't respond. 2 days later, Talia tried again. Grandma, I know I can't undo what happened. But can I come see you? Just for a minute. That one I sat with for a while. I even drafted a response, but I never sent it. Because sometimes silence is the clearest boundary a woman can draw. And I'd spent too much of my life drawing soft lines in sand that others stepped over like they weren't even there. Instead, I pulled out the thank you letters the shelter had mailed me. There were 11 of them, all handwritten women with names I didn't know, stories I hadn't lived and pain I understood. One wrote, "You gave me a roof when my own daughter said I was too expensive to care for." Another is the first Christmas I've had in 10 years where I feel safe. And one simply said, "You reminded me I'm not trash." I folded them carefully and placed them in a box with my Bible and old recipe cards. Things worth saving. Later that night, I opened Facebook one last time just to check. The family group was still there, but quiet now. No new posts, no new photos, no Thanksgiving updates. The last post was still mine, still pinned, still shared, still burning quietly in the center of their curated little world. I clicked the Leave Group button. It asked, "Are you sure?" I clicked yes. I didn't need to watch the aftermath anymore. Let them clean it up. Let them rebuild without me. The next morning, I walked into town with my scarf wrapped tight around my chin and my heart lighter than it had felt in years. I passed the bakery where Jasmine worked, but I didn't glance through the window. I wasn't interested in watching people pretend. I stopped at the shelter instead, dropped off a pie I baked the night before. Carla hugged me and said, "You're always welcome here." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. I used to believe legacy meant blood. That what we built, what we saved, what we sacrificed, all of it should go to our children no matter what. That family by default deserved everything. But after that Thanksgiving, I stopped believing that legacy isn't about who shares your last name. It's about who shows up when no one's watching. It's about who pulls up a chair before you have to ask, who calls before you're forgotten, who checks in. Not for holidays or hashtags, but because your silence matters to them. Took me 76 years to learn that. I wish I'd learned it sooner. The days after I left, the Langley family Facebook group passed quietly. No drama, no more knocks on the door, no more messages from Malcolm or Jasmine, not even Talia. I think they finally understood. Or maybe they just gave up trying. Either way, I didn't miss them. I'd already found something better. The director at Haven House asked if I wanted to speak at their annual winter dinner. Just a few words to the women staying there, some of whom had been through things even I couldn't imagine. Abandonment, eviction, silence that stretched for decades. I said yes. I wore a simple gray dress and a scarf with sunflowers stitched across it. It was the same one I wore to Talia's graduation years ago. I remember Jasmine saying it was a bit loud. But that night, standing in a room full of women who had survived the same kind of heartbreak I'd tasted, it felt just right. I told them my story briefly, not to take up space, but to remind them they weren't alone. I thought I'd grow old in the arms of the people I raised. I said instead, I grew wise in their absence. They clapped. Some cried. One woman hugged me afterward and whispered, "My daughter sent me away when I got sick. You helped me stop blaming myself." That hug meant more to me than any Christmas toast my family could have faked. Later that night, Carla showed me a room at the shelter they'd named in my honor. The Ruth Room, a plaque read. A space for women to rest, reset, and feel safe, especially grandmothers who had nowhere to go. I stood in the doorway for a long time, my hand over my chest. I had given them the house I once planned to leave to my son. And for the first time in my life, I felt like it had gone exactly where it belonged. I posted one last photo online, not to the family group, of course. That bridge was long burned. I posted it to my own wall, just me standing beside the plaque. No caption, just the image. The people who understood understood. And the ones who didn't, they weren't invited to ask. 2 weeks later, a card came in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. I recognized the handwriting right away. It was from Talia. She didn't beg. She didn't make excuses. She simply wrote, "I've been thinking about how long you kept showing up for us and how little we showed up for you. You didn't deserve what we did. I know it's too late to ask for forgiveness, but if you ever want to have tea, just tea, no promises. I'll be there. Love, Talia." I folded the letter slowly and placed it in a drawer. I didn't write back. Maybe one day I will, but I needed her to sit with the silence to taste it the same way I had when they left me by the window, pie in the fridge, cardigan on, waiting for a car that never came. Redemption takes time and effort and loss. I'm not bitter. I'm just done being the one who always does the reaching. Christmas came. I spent it at the shelter just like I said I would. We had a little tree, some carols, a warm dinner, and enough laughter to fill the rooms with something that felt like family. The good kind. The kind that doesn't ask you to shrink. I brought my pie again. This time it was eaten. Every last slice. As the evening wounded down, I sat beside a woman named Myra who told me her son had left her at a bus station 3 years ago. He still didn't know why. He just said, "Wait here. I'll be back." And never came, she said. She smiled as she told it, but her eyes stayed watery. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm not," she replied. I wouldn't have met these ladies if he hadn't. We raised our teacups in a quiet little toast. "To beginnings," I said. "To peace," she replied. When I got home that night, I looked around my living room. Same furniture, same old curtains, but everything felt new. The silence was mine now. Chosen, owned, peaceful. I curled up on the couch with a blanket and lit one last candle. This one gold flickering softly on the coffee table. I didn't wait for anyone to call. I didn't refresh my phone. I didn't wonder what Jasmine or Malcolm or Talia were doing. I already knew they were looking backward. And I was finally beautifully done doing the same. Let them scroll. Let them explain.